Good morning, everyone. So I am back for Who Was Dr. Seuss, Chapter 7. And see, I'm getting ready for Halloween. It's chilly or cold here where I live, and just south of us in South Dakota, because I'm in North Dakota. In some areas there, they already had snow for their first day of school. I think snow is pretty. I don't like driving in it. But who's all ready for Halloween or Thanksgiving and Christmas? I can't believe we're almost here. This year already. Alright, here we go. Chapter 7. A Moose, a Nerd, and the Who's. Ted's joy at the end of World War II was cut short by the death of his sister, Marnie. Because of a family quarrel, she and Ted had fallen out of touch. She died before they could make up. Her death upset him so much that he avoided talking about her for the rest of his life. That's sad. Now that the war was over, Ted and Helen decided to stay in California. They bought an old observation tower on a mountain outside of La Jolla, a beautiful California town on the Pacific coast. For years, the tower had been empty, and it was a favorite meeting place for young couples. The walls were covered with carved initials. Even after the Giselles moved in, some couples could still try to come inside. One of Ted's first books after the war was Thidwick, the Big-Hearted Moose. Thidwick is too nice and lets other animals push him around. So before I move on, there was his sister Marnie that he lost touch with and didn't get to make up with her before she died. Just sad. At the end of the story, Ted asks readers, well, what would you do if it happened to you? Ted ended many of his books this way, by asking questions. He wanted kids to enjoy his stories, but he also wanted to help them think for themselves. Ted began to turn out 1 or 2 books every year. They were funny, original, and very different from one another. People often asked Ted where he got his ideas. He said that he usually started by doodling. I may doodle a couple of animals. If they bite each other, it's going to be a good book. After a while, he got tired of this question. He started saying that he got his ideas from the people in a small town called Uberglitch. I go there on the 4th of August every summer to get my cuckoo clock repaired. From then on, he gave this answer to everyone, even President John F. Kennedy's wife, Jacqueline. Some of his books were inspired by the real world. In 1953, Life magazine sent Ted and Helen to Japan to find out how the country was coping after the war. Ted had mixed feelings about the Japanese. In his wartime cartoons, he had shown Japanese people, even U.S. citizens, as villains. But as he talked to teachers and school children in Japan, he got past this prejudice. He saw that the people of Japan were trying to honor the importance of each individual and still work together for the common good. Back in his studio, Ted explored what he had learned in Japan. To do this, he returned to one of his most beloved characters, Horton the elephant. In Horton Here's a Who, Horton must save the tiny world of Whoville by proving it exists. He can do this only by getting every Who, even the very smallest and laziest, to work together. Horton is willing to risk everything for the Who's because a person's a person no matter how small. Ted dedicated the book to a Japanese friend. By the time Horton Hears a Who was published, personal troubles had taken over Ted's life. Helen was suffering from a terrible illness. She could not breathe on her own and had to be put on an iron lung, a huge metal case that enclosed most of her body. Ted spent hours sitting beside her in the hospital. When she came home, Ted rigged up mirrors so Helen could watch their dog playing outside. That's when he was in Japan. Ted had relied on Helen for everything. She helped him with all his books and ran his life for him. Without her, he didn't even know how to balance a checkbook. Helen amazed her doctors by recovering almost completely. By May 1955, she was able to travel back to Dartmouth with Ted to see him get an honorary doctorate. Years ago, he had disappointed his father by not earning a degree from Oxford, but now he had made up for it. He was no longer just Dr. Seuss, he boasted. He was Dr. Seuss. So this is the iron lung that they were talking about, where it helped her breathe. So she had to lay in here. And I guess she was able to take it home. And so that's what means that he had the window open so she could look outside and see the dogs instead of just looking in the house all the time. And that, because you can't move, you can't do anything, you have to lay in there. And then here she is, where she's got better. So she's no longer in this machine, which is awesome. And that's when he graduated with his doctorate degree. For Dr. Seuss. The first nerd. Ted loved to invent words like thneed and salamagoo. One of his words escaped from its book and became part of the English language. Dr. Seuss was the first person to use the word nerd. In If I Ran the Zoo, published in 1959, young Gerald McGrew plans to steal a cartridge and bring back a nerd. No one knows quite how it happened, but within a year, teenagers in Detroit were using nerd to mean a drip or square. And soon the new word had spread across the whole country. That's pretty cool. Pretty amazing, huh? How that can work. So there's the dictionary. All right, so that was Chapter 7, everyone. And I'll be back again for Chapter 8. I hope you all have a great day. See you later.